Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining. And tonight we are going to be discussing with the author Carole McDonnell her book, My Life as an Onion. Welcome, Carole.
Hey there.
Okay, so we'll get right into it. I started to read through this book and I found it to be like a slow burn. I guess that would what you
Mm.
call it. I'm more of a fast-paced reader, but when I read the synopsis, I didn't realize that this book was going to touch on so many different subject matters. So, can you tell us what was the inspiration behind this book?
Well, I think first I grew up, my grandfather was a minister,
Okay.
and I wanted to really deal with all my issues growing up and also somehow put it in a love story.
Okay.
So there's like, I think when you're a good little Christian girl, you're taught that certain people should be avoided and you have certain ways of behaving. And then it turns out somehow, usually as you grow up, you realize that you almost feel freer. You have certain ways of behaving.
Sorry.
And then it turns out
That's me.
somehow.
Sorry.
It's okay.
My background. Sorry, go ahead.
It turns out that you sort of feel almost freer with people who are not Christian. And you're like, why do I feel that? So it was like there's a part of me that is very Christian, and there's a part of me that was also very like arty and creative.
Right.
And somehow it was like both sides would fight against each other.
Mm.
So I thought, I'm going to, someone said that a book is like a question. The soul, what's the point? It's like writing a book is like a conversation between the soul and the spirit. And that was basically what was going on. That was like what I wanted to get at.
Okay. Okay. Um, so how long would you say it usually takes for you to take a book from thought or concept to publishing? I know it varies for every author.
I'd say probably about 5 years or so for a book.
Wow.
Yeah, because I always want to make sure I get everything that's necessary, and I'm always writing other books at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So if I start writing a book, I'll start writing it, and then I'll go to another book, then I'll come back to the book, then I'll send out, you know, sections to various people,
Uh-huh.
and they'll say, oh, and so it's like this constant, because I don't want to fall into that trap of only seeing everything through the main character's eyes, or sometimes we get so involved in a story or in our own point of view that okay, this will happen. But if we step back, we go, oh, you know what? There's a scene there that should have happened.
Right.
I remember, I forgot who it was, but she said something about when you write a story, there's, or especially when I used to review things, I still do, but there are the missing scenes, the missing characters, missing people.
Hmm.
And sometimes when you're writing, you go, wait a second, there's a missing person. I do that with movies. I'm watching a movie and I'm like, oh no, they should have had a character who did this,
Hmm.
or they should have had a scene that did this. So when I write, I'm very careful with that. As for it being a slow burn, oh yes, yes. That happened, I think, because part of me loves slow burns.
Okay. Okay.
So it affects my stories. I think there's one novel I did where someone said, nothing happened until the first half of the book was over. And then I was hooked. So
Right.
and that's the way I am with movies too. I love entering a world and sort of like sauntering through it.
I understand. I understand. Yeah, my daughter's a lover of slow burns. I am
Not.
I was like, okay, I'm reading this book. I know it's gonna get there. I know it's gonna get there. I'm tempted to flip through, but I know from reading your submission for the Unseen anthology, I mean, that went through me for a loop. But that's another subject. But yeah, I find it very interesting that you are able, and excuse me, I commend any writer who is able to start a project, step away, write another project simultaneously, and then come back to it. I am not one of those authors because the story is in me and it's just bursting to get out. So I commend you for being able to do that. I've seen a lot of authors who I follow who I'm waiting on book 3 or 4, and they're like, I'm putting this other stuff out. I'm gonna get to that book, and I'm like, but how can you just leave us hanging like that? But to each his own. But I commend you for being able to, I guess, compartmentalize your creativity in a way that you can write different books simultaneously.
It's not even really a compartmentalization. It's more like, well, I know this one person. What's his name? Oh God, I think it was Hemingway who said that some of his best stories were written when he was trying to avoid writing his novel. So if I get an idea, like if someone says, Carole, write a story for this anthology, then I'll just stop and write it. And I don't want to write anything that's not true in any of my stories. So if I'm not feeling it,
right,
in that particular day, it's not compartmentalized. It's sort of like, I'm not there. I don't get it yet. Then I just don't do it. So it's like I was writing this book at the same time I was writing Constant Tower, at the same time I was writing the Bible study book.
wow.
So it's just like I will get up at one day and I'll go, oh, today I'll work on the Psalms book. Oh, today I'll work on this book. While my mind is working on this another story in the background.
Okay.
So it's like I feel that in everything, even when I'm not doing anything, my mind is working. Wow. So I just sort of get up and I work on whatever I want to that day.
So people, this is some encouraging words here from someone like Carole, who has written, I can say, a diverse set of books. You can check out all of her work on Amazon and you'll see what I'm talking about. Just so that if you find yourself in a similar situation where you're that type of person, that means that you are just, I'll just say, very creative. Unlike me, I'm just tunnel vision when I write. I've got a story and I just got to get it out because it's writing itself, like you're saying, Carole, in my head. And I either have to voice note or write down notes or something so I don't lose that information. But like I said, I commend people like you who can do that. I just am not one of those writers.
Oh, you're good. You're good. I wish I were like you. When I get up every morning, I have 3 or 4 files open on my computer. And I just sort of like go back and forth. And I have little placeholders. So if I'm lying in bed and I get a thought, I've got like all these little cards beside my bed. Okay. And then when I get up, I open all my documents and I go, oh, when I was thinking of this one, these thoughts came. So I plug them in as placeholders. Then I go to the next document in Word and for the thoughts I had on that book. And then I put them in with their placeholders. Okay. And just sort of like, and then I go, okay, the placeholders are in. And now I can forget it and move on. And when I go back to the document, it's like, oh, yeah, I remember when I had that placeholder in.
Wow. So you're a full-time writer then?
Yeah, I used to be a teacher.
Okay.
And so not anymore. Okay. So I'm like 59 and sort of chilling. Wow. And so I've got all the time. Give or take.
My goal, just to write all day, all night, in the wee hours of the morning. I find that for me, once I start writing, it's like a marathon until I'm physically exhausted, and then I have to go, um, or I'm just really hungry. I got to go and eat. But that,
Oh, you are good.
I think that, yeah, I'm the type of person in anything that I do, I want to get it done. I want to see the finished product. Not saying that I'm rushing, but yeah, I'd say I'm just tunnel vision when it comes to assignments and whatnot. So tell us, what would you say was your most difficult challenge to date when it comes to getting a book published?
To be myself, because there's so many ways you cannot be yourself, and something in me just said I want to be myself no matter what. And
Yeah.
that's sort of like a, it's like, okay, how am I going to do this? Like I look at Christian books and I'll say, oh, they don't do anything for me, because so many Christian books they don't mean to be, but they end up, although they're talking about grace, they end up being very legalistic, and I'm like, oh God, they've told people at the end of the book they should be good. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's legalism, that's good. But I went, oh, my charismatic soul, my Pentecostal soul. So I was like, okay, how am I going to have a story that is Pentecostally with people having miracles and seeing things, also including what teenagers go through and their little sexual issues. If it's too sexual, the Christians may not like it, definitely won't. And if it's too religious, or if it's too black, and I'm like, I said, there was a point where I thought, I had one friend, she's up in heaven now, but her characters were all very light skinned with green eyes. She was dark and I'm dark, and I was like, why'd you do that? She's like, I just want to, and I'm like, oh, and I sort of like make it a point always to make my characters to sort of, well, I not challenge the reader, but it's like, you've lived your life hiding yourself. So I'm like, no, my character is a little pudgy and she's dark skinned, and my character is a religious nut, and my character is horny, and it's gonna all come together. I was talking to a friend of mine on Facebook, and I said, oh, I want Netflix to do Onion. And he said, it's a good book. He's a white male, so he goes, but they will have to get rid of certain things. I can't see them doing everything in it. And because if you're a writer, it's like, okay, this is a good story about a sober companion, and the girl is stuck with this rich guy, but why do you have to include the religious stuff? And why do you have to include the flaky religious stuff? Or Netflix might say, oh, make it be totally Hallmarky, and make it be totally, but then they might want someone lighter, they might, you know what I mean, that doesn't quite fit in with the race or the sex or the religion. And I said, I just want everything that is me in that story, for good or bad.
From a reader's perspective, and I'm an avid reader, well, I used to be. I try to be still, but now with writing it, it's hard to read. But my daughter, she's a godsend because she is an avid reader. She's a book critic in her own right. She's well read and very diverse read as well. And one thing I do like, and this is why I wanted to create this platform for Christian authors, to encourage them to do what you're doing, to write about real people, real situations. There are some authors now, they're in the edgy Christian fiction genre that are writing about real life things. We all have issues in our lives. We have to deal with our flesh and relationships. We're not perfect though we're trying to be perfect, we know we'll never attain perfection, but
Right.
their books are full of real characters and real people. And I commend you for doing that. And I would say stick to it, because there are people out there. I don't know if you recall when Mattel started doing the Barbie collection to look like real little girls.
Yes.
So there are people out there who want to read about them, and read about relationships that they themselves are in. So I commend you on that. And I'd say, you know what? Those who you're writing for will see your work. I know right now it might be a small niche in the market, but they are followers of real characters that look like them.
Right.
Even when I'm picking a book, I want to read and see, well, I want to read about somebody that looks like me, So I think that we don't have enough of that in the Christian
Yes.
area. And I would encourage people who are writing Christian fiction in particular to write. I mean, I know many of us authors, we are parts of our stories. I mean, after I was reading this book, I could see you in it. And then I realized, like, wait a minute, okay, that cover looks familiar. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's me as a kid.
Yeah, I figured that out. I was like, wait a minute, that looks like Carole. I'm like, okay, I can see parts of you in this story. So definitely, if you're writing a book, don't be afraid to put the real stuff in there, and don't water it down.
It's funny because some people dislike the real stuff and some people dislike the fantasy stuff. Well, fantasy is another thing I do, but not fantasy in the sense of like this white guy. I will call him white. He'll kill me, but he read it and he said, I usually don't like romance. It seems like wish fulfillment. And because there's a lot of wish fulfillment in this book. And I retorted, well, when white guys go saving the galaxy, that's wish fulfillment, but you don't think of it as wish fulfillment, right? Because you're used to white Americans saving the planet. Right. But if a black girl has a romance and this wonderful guy loves her, and I said, this is typical, at least in the Asian term, reverse harem, in the sense that no sex or anything, but in the sense that one girl has 5 or 6 guys who like her. That is a typical trope and genre. So because a man isn't used to it, or because a white guy isn't used to a black girl being, especially if she's described as pudgy, being seen as an object of beauty, then he'll put wish fulfillment on it. But it's not. It's just that there's so many different tropes that people are used to. Right. And so it's like, well, that's what it is.
Oh my God. And that's going back to being true to you, being true to your writing, and being true to your followers, because there are many women who fit those characteristics who want to read about romance. And many of them I see are married and they are in interracial relationships and they're very happy. So again, there's always going to be a market for your work. It may not be as broad as the average others out there, but people are being very vocal now. They want representation in everything, right, including writing. And I do, again, encourage people who are writing Christian fiction to write about real life situations. I don't want the happily ever after stories all the time, because then to me, that's just like, okay, that's fantasy there. I might as well go and get me a full fantasy novel about something, whatever. I want to know that at the end, someone died. At the end, they didn't work out because life happened,
And I remember one of my friends, she was like, I really love this book, but I'm kind of sad about the ending. And I said, it's a relatively happy ending, relatively speaking. But, if someone's used to like light Christian fantasy or light Christian chick lit, right? And I'm like, I'm going to try to do a chick lit that's interracial, that's about religious issues, that's pretty dense. and also a romance, and they're like, oh, that's, so she was okay with everything except the ending, which she thought was like, I should have given it a happy ending, and I thought I gave it a happy ending.
Wow.
But in her mind, it wasn't a happy ending.
So I'm gonna read a post that someone wrote in the chat. It's coming from Marie. Marie was also one of the contributors in The Unseen, and she says, here's the funny part. The edgy things being written are a lot of things Christians, in quotations, are doing behind closed doors. So keep on writing. Exactly.
Thank you.
I mean, isn't that truthful? They're doing it behind closed doors, hoping the world doesn't know or nobody finds out. But I can tell you that, and I'm not promoting it in any way, but the erotica genre, it sells. It can't stay on the shelf. People are buying it, surprised at who's reading that stuff. So I'll just leave that at that.
Well, it's funny because I think so many people have erotic, well, they have a story and they have a way of being in their life, whatever. And the only answers that they get are from the secular world because the Christians don't deal with it, and I'm like, wait, but shouldn't kids who have an, like this, in this story, my character Denise truly feels safest when she's with the gay friends, the oddball druggy friends, because they, I don't know if you've reached that part or if you ever will reach that part, but there's a place where she's being hounded by various Christian women, and it's like you feel for her in that she's sort of split, which is like the Christian part of her wants to be with Christian people, but the other part of her, who am I? What do I feel? Like she's talking with her, she visits her mother, and her mother is said, oh, you're living with this guy. And she's like, no, I'm just being, his sober companion. But the mother has brought in 3 of her church friends, and they proceed to give her the big talk, and they go on and on and on at her. And she's just beaten down by Sister Ruby's goodwill, Sister Pearl's goodwill. They attacked her when she came home with this goodwill. And so as she's leaving, she says something like, her mother says, oh, you mustn't. And she said, Ma, she says something like, I don't care if the guy I go with has slept with someone else, as long as he doesn't have an STD. I don't care if he's drunk alcohol, as long as he's not an alcoholic. Your concerns are not mine. And I think that's when she starts finding herself, because it's like, and if she didn't have, like, these questions, I guess I'm saying is that it bothers me so much when I see someone saying, I left my religion because it was such and such. I left, and I feel like if they had had an open-minded discussion with a nice open-minded Christian who expanded their minds or something, they would have been, they shouldn't be defining Christianity as a loss of their freedom, and they shouldn't be saying in their mind it's either or, and this is where my character is. She's like, I have peace, I have acceptance by the arty set, by the flaky, weird, debauched set, some of them anyway, but I'm not going to give up my religion. And in a lot of my stories, I generally write fantasy, but in Wind Follower, my novel, another novel I wrote, the main character is an indigenous person from, and an imperialistic light-skinned bunch of warriors and everything take over his country. And the thing is, he believes that their God is the true God. But how can he now be friends with that God who has sent people to destroy his people?
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of Black Christians have to deal with a lot of woke people who are like, yes, I don't do Christian anymore, I'm back with the ancestors. And it's like that discussion sometimes isn't taking place in literature or in anything. And so it's like there's so many discussions that I see and I go, oh wow, this person is talking about being meditating on this, and this person is talking about the power of orgasms, and this person is talking. Why don't we have Christians talking about these things? If we give young kids answers,
Right,
that either feel wrong or feel like a platitude, we've lost them.
yeah.
Well, and if I remember this one person saying, it was a guy, a white guy again, he was like, I read this book. And I haven't been in church in ages, but I like this book. It was like I reminded him that there are Christians out there who journey and battle that party line mentality. So in Wind Follower, like I dealt with it on a more imperialistic way, like, oh God, these people, these white folks have oppressed my people and I love their God. How am I going to deal with this? And that was a fantasy story.
Wow.
In this one, it's like, if I can't stand Christians generally, and the people who are kind to me, the people who don't attack me, are people who are atheists and New Agers and sinners and gays, how am I going to walk through that? So it's like, and we have to say, yes, there are people who are doing that. How can I walk through this world, still hold on to my Jesus instead of tossing him aside? And yet, how can I love my friends when, they're being snide about God? It's like, it's such a hard walk for modern Christians.
Wow. Yeah, that definitely is. And that's something that a lot of the young people are dealing with. Those who may be trying to have that relationship with Jesus, but they're living in a society with people who either don't know about him, weren't told about him from their family, or who were just so turned off, like you say, by those people coming to give them the talk. And I know a lot of people have had the talk, and that talk has turned many people away from Christ because it is so, the talk is given in such a rigid manner.
Yes.
Without any flexibility. And I'm not saying that as a Christian, you have to compromise. That's not what we're talking about. But we have to learn to love the person and not the acts in which they do.
Right.
And we have to find a place or a common ground with them to have discussions without them feeling threatened. But first of all, we have to show them the love. And I think that as I was starting to read through it, and you're talking about this book, I think I understand that she just showed them she accepts them for who they are because they accept her for who she is.
Right.
And we as Christians need to accept people in the place that they're at, but give them hope to know that there is a better way. Give them an example. I mean, we're supposed to be Christ-like on this earth, and we should exemplify the way he acted, and not just go with a finger and a rod stick and beat salvation into somebody, because that's just going to turn them away. And for me, dealing with young people, I know they do not want to have that talk.
Right.
They once you start with that talk, their ears clog up and they just tune you out.
And there's also the flip side. Not only must we show love, but we must also say, oh, they're showing us love.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, a lot of people think of the Good Samaritan story. It's like, here I am, as a Christian, I am going out being a good Samaritan. That is what I'm supposed to do, to love my neighbor. But the other thing is, we are also the wounded person on the road.
Mm.
And it is a Samaritan, sometimes a total stranger, who has picked us up.
Yes.
You know, and we are always so aware that we bring goodness to the world, when, you know, sometimes an atheist brings goodness to us, you know, and it's like, there's that sort of like, we must try to be as human as possible in everything we do, and yet be humans that carry the life of God in us, except not be so ultra aware of it that we turn people off by thinking that they have nothing to give to us.
Right.
You know,
that there's the key.
So I think, like I said, you know, I think you should try seeing if your daughter likes this book, because it's a book made for like that generation of kids that are like, or adults, because you know, whenever I just hate it whenever I see some Christian saying, oh, I'm not a Christian anymore because, and I thought, oh my Lord, didn't you have any deep, subtle friends out there who could have sorted it out for you? Some loving person who just would chat with you. And this is what people say about my life as an onion. They say, oh, it feels like you're sitting at the table talking to your friend about life. It's just chatting, you know. And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want, that sense of like just being someone reading a book that says, oh my God, I've been through this.
Yeah. Yeah. I will definitely let her read it and get her feedback on it. But just to piggyback what you said, you know, to all of you that are listening, whenever you find you've got an inbox message or somebody's calling you or texting you or whatever, and you see or hear they just need to talk. We all need someone to just talk to at some point.
Yeah.
And I know sometimes you feel like, oh, well, I'm too busy. But I want you to just pause and just remember when you were in that situation and you needed someone to talk to. And like you said, oftentimes it might be the person who's not the Christian that will show you their care. They'll give you their time. And like, I feel like your character in this book, like you said, she finds that acceptance with people who are not Christians, who are not in the church, because they themselves have issues and they themselves need to vent, and they appreciate when someone listens to them, you know. So I would encourage people, when you have someone come across your day or your time and you feel like you don't have time to talk to them, this is more than not the opportunity God has placed for them to see what a Christian should be. Someone who really cares, someone who's not judging them, someone who will listen to them. And that may not be the moment you're just supposed to say, well, have you accepted Jesus Christ in your life? No, that might just be the moment where you start to dig the hole to plant the seed, to then water the seed.
That's the thing, because so many Christian books have a sort of like plant the seed, water the seed, reap the harvest, all in one book. And I'm like, first of all, you don't know. Other people have been planting seeds.
Yeah.
And just sort of be.
Yes.
You don't know. It could be the silliest little thing you say that saves someone or turns them off. Yeah. I remember, well, just two names I'll throw out. Nell Carter and Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan became a Christian. Then he got sick and was in the hospital. No Christian visited him.
Wow.
left the faith. Nell Carter, raped as a little girl. The Christians hammered her, hammered her, hammered her. She died a devout Jewish person with a lesbian partner. These are things that we have to like be very careful how we treat the wounded.
Yes.
You know, and also receiving from people is a good thing. Receiving from atheists, you know, Christians are always like, I must give, I must forgive, I must be holy, I must always be the one. But no, to make a person feel that they have affected your life, that they have given to you, is also a blessing.
Yes.
You know, and we just can't walk around being the superior ones all the time.
Yes. Because God, you know, the truth be told, we are definitely not superior.
Right.
We as Christians, we have our flaws and our faults, and we pick up our cross daily, like the good book says. And God knows that nobody's going to be perfect. You know, he knows that no one is going to be like, there's only one Jesus. There was only one Jesus, right? But we are to definitely show love to other people, and only through love are we going to win people to Christ, because it was only through love that we were won.
Yes.
You know, for me, it was an in-law. You know, I grew up in the church and everything. And when I came to this country, I got away from the church, and I was at a point where I was I knew something was missing, and I'm like, you know what, Lord, I need to get back into fellowship. But before that, I was just, you know, going along life my merry way, and an in-law would come to me, and every time she'd see me, she would say, you know, God loves you, and God wants you to come back to him, to have fellowship with him. And I'd be like, I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. And so she stopped saying those things to me, and she started to show me, you know, showing me love, showing me she cared. In the way that she did was to help me with my new baby, and just taking over and becoming like the godmother, and just helping me out, and just always not preaching to me, but she would just say how good God has been to her, and so forth. And that kind of just drew me slowly back to where I needed to be. So she showed me love and care. And again, like you're saying, that's what we need to do. Beating people over the head with scripture and what they shouldn't be doing, etc. So I would encourage everybody who is finding themselves in a situation where, excuse me, you don't have the norm, I'd say, people around you, meaning Christians and believers alike. And God is not one who makes mistakes. You are where you need to be at this point in time in your life. And the people in your immediate circle are your ministry.
Yes.
I mean, those are the people that you should be letting your light shine in front of. You should be the one that we come to.
In a subtle, in a quiet way. I remember this one lady I used to hang out with. She was this older Jewish lady. And she said to me once, you know, this guy here wants to save me, but he wants to turn me into a trophy. Someone he brings to church and says, look, he saved me. And I'm like, people are not stupid. You know, they have insight, and they can see if we truly love them,
right,
or if we're just in love with our idea and our way of being, and we just want them to, you know, people can tell these things, and it's like so it's best just to be as real as possible.
Yes.
You know, never flip out a platitude just because you can.
Yeah.
Don't always know everything. Just be a heart and let Holy Spirit in you, you know, attract them.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Carole, for taking time out to discuss your book, My Life as an Onion. It is available for purchase on Two Tigers LLC and Amazon. You can connect with Carole on her Facebook author page. It's Carole McDonnell. And I do encourage everybody to get a copy of either this or some of her other works. They are really, really, like, I mean, Carole,
Yeah.
I commend you on your writing style. It's like the world building is awesome.
Let me just say, for anyone listening, I don't know how many, but if you like nonfiction, definitely read my book on blogging the Psalms, or Great Sufferers of the Bible, or Proverbs, A Fool's Journey Through Proverbs. If you like fantasy, there is The Constant Tower and Wind Follower, and there's also very small little novelettes and novellas. And if you, My Life as an Onion is my only contemporary big novel, big story. But I have little teeny novels.
Little teeny novels. Okay.
Okay, but it's the only one that takes place in this world.
So this is the
part, I'm a fantasy writer.
Yes.
As in the Unseen anthology.
Yes. I love your world building. My daughter, again, she loves world building. She gets so wrapped up in the world building, she doesn't get to write the book. And I just look at her like, oh man.
If she needs any help, I'm always here. She can always send me some of her stories and I'll gently help her.
Okay, great. I'll let her know. Maybe she'll finally finish one of those books she has me reading, and then I get disappointed because she never finishes. And I'm like, but I'll definitely pass on your information to her. And thank you again for joining us. And so this evening, folks, we're going to do something a little different with the free paperback giveaway. I asked everybody to leave a comment in the live chat. Later on, I'm going to go back through the live chat and I'm going to randomly pick a winner. And you will be, I will comment on your post in the live chat, asking you to contact me so we can get your shipping address for Carole to send you a paperback copy. This isn't paperback, right, Carole?
Yes.
Okay.
So and I shall venture out into the cold to mail it.
Oh my goodness. Yes, Carole is up on the East Coast in the northern part where it is cold and snowing. So again, make sure you leave a comment in the live chat later this evening. I will go through and randomly pick a winner via a random timestamp selector. So it'll be based on the one that posts as close to the time as possible. You'll get a paperback copy of My Life as an Onion. And thank you, everybody that joined in on the live. And thank you again, Carole, for taking part in this.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, no problem. Good night.
Good night. God bless, everyone.
God bless. Bye.
Bye.